Our community, our hometown. This is Kearney Live, presented by 102.7 FM and KMO-TV. Kearney Live is a close-up look at the people, places, and events that matter to you. And now, here are the hosts of Kearney Live, Mike Davis and Jim Dickerson.
All right. I like it. Everybody's here and in their seats. We are strapped in for another episode of Kearney Live. Welcome. I'm your host, Mike Davis, along with producer-engineer Brian Watts. Right?
That's right. Thank you.
And for those of you who might perhaps not already know, Brian Watts is officially the president.
What?
Of the Kearney Chamber of Commerce. Yes. Yes. El Presidente. Yes. Wonderful. Yes. And congratulations to you. Did your campaign crew get together last night and celebrate?
Yes, we did celebrate. All two of us celebrated at a private location we cannot disclose.
Well, congratulations, Brian. I think... Jim and I, by the way, Jim is out today. He is flying around the nation. Yes, he is. Jim Dickerson. There he is. Look at that handsome guy. Look at that. Yeah, it's a smile, and a seldom seen smile on that face. Not so much. Actually, he's a funny guy. See you next week, Jim. Maybe. I don't know. He's so
next week we're off for 4th of July holiday.
Oh, my gosh. Wow. That's all right. Well, don't blow your fingers off or anything.
Don't do that.
In any case, I got confused. Jim confused me, and he wasn't even here to do it.
How does he do that?
I know. It's amazing. Must be telepathic.
Yes.
I don't know where I was going to go with. Oh, I remember.
Okay.
Well, the thing is, when this was a while back when we were just getting involved with the Chamber of Commerce, and the whole notion of you getting further and deeper involved in the chamber, I think, was something that Jim talked about, and we thought, well, you could aspire to actually become.
Right.
Get on the executive board and become president. Jokingly, at one point, we kind of joked around. And the reality is that today, this very day, you are president of the Kearney, Missouri Chamber of Commerce. Great bunch of people.
Yes.
Stacy Bratzer. Stacy is just about as good as they come.
Yeah.
And as near as I can tell, I don't know that anybody else that is our executive director who has run a chamber any better than her. And
neither.
If there has been, please let me know, because I don't know of them.
We won't believe it. So
no, not at all. Anyway, congratulations, Brian. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
I did want to mention too that as I was driving up this morning to the radio station, of course I had the radio station on 102.7 FM, and I was listening to the news. It occurred to me how many wonderful volunteers we have at this station. These are not paid. These folks don't get paid, and they do a terrific job. And I was listening to, this morning it was Meredith Cole,
right,
who does news and weather on a fairly regular basis. And oftentimes I hear Jim Dyer he was just recently resigned from our board of directors. He's a busy man. He got too much going on. But he also does news and weather and doesn't collect one penny for it. Christy Nunez, news and weather, the same thing, and has a terrific voice. All of them are such fantastic broadcasters for folks who just show up, raise their hand, and say, I want to do this thing. Stephanie Brees is another one. She's a new one, right?
Yes.
I have not met Stephanie, so I'd like to do that. And we also have Melinda Strathman and what's her dog's name?
Bubbles.
Bubbles.
Bubbles,
who does
the weather pug.
She the weather pug.
Yes.
She does it's a weekend forecast for all the folks who are going to go, as we get ready to go do fun things on the weekend. And so she does a live weather broadcast on KMO-TV, which we just love. And I chuckle every time I see Bubbles
I know.
sitting in the little chair, because he just seems so indifferent to everything going on.
He is, but at least he's got a new outfit every week. And that's just a plus. I want to know what he's going to be wearing for the weekend.
I don't know, but it is hilarious. And I just, seriously, I want folks to know how wonderful it is to work with these people and how much we appreciate all of them, and we certainly appreciate you. Okay, now I would like to introduce our guest, and Diane Pickert. How are you? Good to see you.
Thank you. I'm great. Good to see you.
Yes, it is good seeing you. Now, let me make sure that I get this right. You are a community prevention specialist with Kearney-Holt CAN. Did I get that right?
Well, yes. I'm actually employed by Tri-County Mental Health, and I oversee Kearney-Holt CAN.
Okay.
As a community prevention
so
specialist.
the community prevention specialist part is your title with Tri-County Mental Health.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. So there are so many things to remember.
I know.
And you may learn here in the next hour or so, I forget things on a pretty regular basis. Well, great. But, okay, well, tell us about this. I introduce yourself from the standpoint that you and I have already spoken. I think we spent 30 minutes talking already. That would have been a pretty good show.
It would have been, yeah.
But let's talk about what's going on with Kearney-Holt CAN and what the acronym CAN stands for.
Yes. Kearney-Holt CAN goes way back. CAN is Community Action Now. Community Action Acts Now. And so it is a group of, where we pull 12 sectors together to make this coalition. And back years ago, they're one of the first 5 communities that when the state called for coalitions to create these coalitions and had a meeting and a training, Kearney was one of the first 5 communities to go for this training, and
the training specific for what? Let's get the big picture here.
For prevention.
Yes, and we're talking about prevention, keeping kids from getting involved in drugs, alcohol, and what other things?
Substance use. Yes, we use the acronym ATOD, so alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs.
I see. Okay.
Yes, so that was back then. That was the main focus is alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. And, marijuana was a thing back then, but not as big as it is now. And, of course, it's grown into some other things since then. But, yeah, in 1993, it was revamped, and it took on a very strong presence. And they've done quite a few campaigns since then. And they have done a tremendous amount of work. It's been a strong community, working together with the school district and community organizations in Kearney. You probably see banners up a lot that they put up on substance use, resilience, just trying to get some education out there. We have a billboard up right now on 92 and I-35. Mm-hmm. It's for underage drinking. So that's kind of what it started out being is mostly substance use, and we've kind of grown to take on the mental wellness of youth as well. So that's basically our focus right now is keeping youth, minimizing substance use, and increasing mental health.
Right, and I see that on your outline that you provided me, which is fantastic, and thank you for that.
You're welcome.
At what point did Tri-County say, we're seeing an uptick in kids that are involved in, I'll just call it substance abuse? When did this happen? I mean, what sort of spawned Kearney-Holt CAN? When were did somebody just say, you know what, this is happening far too often, we need to find a way to fight this?
Well, prevention is not very old. So Vicki Ward is our manager in our office, and she started the prevention office pretty much at Tri-County and has grown it to where it is. She was a one-man show back in the day, but it's grown to, we have 11 on our staff right now. And so even across, the nation, prevention is somewhat new in the sense that it is today. It's a growing field, and it's offices are small. We have a pretty big office in Missouri compared to some other prevention resource centers, and even across the nation. But it's growing. There's a lot more people getting involved in it, and they're seeing that it works. So, programs back in the day like DARE.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah, those were prevention programs, but they found that DARE was not a good prevention. And, the scare tactics, remember the commercials with the fried egg and
I do.
And then the crash cars.
This is your drug, your brain on drugs.
I don't know. Those worked great on me.
That's what my kids say. But, the data shows that those weren't real effective. So education is what is really effective. So that's what our goal is now, is to educate the community, change norms, disseminate information as much as possible.
Right. Now, when we spoke earlier, I felt like, of course, all that I can really relate to is, what we've seen from our own lives growing up.
Yeah.
And I indicated that as I went to high school, you just didn't hear about any sort of prevention or kids that were, frankly, even involved too heavily and, for as near as I could tell, in any of these things. And then even as my own children, who are now in their late 30s, early 40s, are, I didn't even see, and I guess where I'm going with this, because we sort of talked about it, but I just didn't see any signs of these kinds of problems that, as we were around even their friends, and we didn't, to the best of my knowledge, we didn't, as parents, see any of this going on. So it leads one to believe, well, okay, why are we seeing so much more of it now? Or is it just because there's more media? Or what is the reason that there are kids who, as you've indicated now, who are actually having not just, it may not be it may not be substance problems. It may be actual mental health problems that stem from any number of things. How are you measuring these things, and how are you able to deal with, once you've identified the problem, where does this all take place now? Because it's obvious you guys are doing a much better job now than was being done even 2 generations ago.
Yes. Well, we have the Missouri Student Survey, which we just got back the data for 2022. It's taken every 2 years, and it's somewhere between the end of March and end of January to the last end of March. The schools have about a 2 month period to take that, fit it in, and they try to get as many students. It's not required, but they try to get as many students to take it as possible. We like 50-50 as far as high school, middle school, so we can get a well-rounded data, and then male-female, so we can get some well-rounded data. And we prefer about 80% of the school is really good. That gives you a really good read. So they ask questions like, in the past 30 days, how often did you use cigarettes? How often did you use e-cigarettes, marijuana, alcohol, prescription drugs, things like that. And then they do risk factors like, in your friend group, how wrong do your friends think marijuana is, vaping, e-cigarettes, cigarettes, all of the drugs, and then it is that for parents and friends in the wrongness, and availability, how available are all these substances, and then it asks the perception of harm. How harmful do you think alcohol is? Little or
they can rank it.
Yeah, they rank it. Yeah, so that kind of gives us a good read on that. And then there's a stress component. So they ask, in the past month, how often did you feel sad? How often did you feel hopeless? How often were you late for school? How often did you feel like not eating, or how did you feel like eating more? And then some suicidal ideation questions like, in the past month, have you felt, how often did you feel like have suicidal thoughts, and those kind of questions. So it gives us a good read of what's going on, and it's there. The numbers aren't like when I'm saying this and we come in the numbers. You're looking at we get schools, each school specifically. If the school district allows it, and then the district as a whole, we get Clay County, the counties, we can get individual for each individual county, and we can get the state. And so we look across the board, and the state usually is higher than, the individual schools, or so, and you kind of look at all of that together, and then, you want to look at each individual district because you compare it to 2020, how did it go up or down? And I would say, this year our numbers are looking fairly good comparatively to 2020, which surprised us from COVID,
Yes.
So, yeah, we didn't know what to think, where that was going to read, but it looks pretty good comparatively.
Right. You indicated that might perhaps have been because kids were at home with their parents and frankly being supervised, which is not a bad idea.
Right. And they really did in the past 30 years, like I said earlier, they worked on cigarettes a lot in the beginning, and we've gotten that percentage down to between 1% and 3%, depending on.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier, and I find that fascinating. I know, as I was growing up, it was not uncommon at all. Well, in fact, the high school I went to allowed kids to go out into the parking lot and smoke.
Wow.
In their cars.
No way.
And yes, I know. It's just unbelievable to think about it right now.
Yeah.
But if you can stop kids from smoking at an early age, as you know, we talked about this, that it'll save somebody's life, and it'll save a lot of lives. I think if they get hooked on those cigarettes too early, it's just a terrible way to go through life, and it's a terrible way to to die.
Yes.
And many of us have seen that. I know I have. All right, Diane Pickert is with us today. Stay with us. You're listening to Kearney Live. We'll be right back to talk more about community prevention, mental health, and substance abuse for kids and families. Let's cover it all. Stay with us. We'll be back in a minute.
Say thank you to these local businesses who support KPGZ.
Simplify your banking, simplify your life. It's easy with Kearney Trust Company. Kearney Trust goes beyond convenient locations and good customer care to offer banking services that make managing your finances quicker and easier than ever before. Online, bill pay, e-statements, and mobile banking are available to give you a positive banking experience so you can get back to your life and activities. Kearney Trust also provides capital to people and businesses so they can achieve their goals. Whether you know exactly what you want or just need someone to talk to about your dream, you can speak with them and work on that dream. Kearney Trust Company is your partner for success with 2 convenient locations in Kearney at 310 West 92 Highway and 701 Watson Drive in Price Chopper. The phone is 816-628-6666. Kearney Trust Company. Banking you can trust. Member FDIC.
Electric cooperatives are different. We have a sense of pride in our local community and support the people who live here. That's why Platte Clay Electric Cooperative supports local schools, takes an active role in economic development, and works hard to keep costs down for its members. We exist for one purpose, to empower communities and energize life with safe and reliable energy. To learn more about how Platte Clay Electric Cooperative is working to achieve that mission, visit www.pcec.coop. Platte Clay Electric Cooperative.
You may have noticed your shoulder hurting, or maybe a kink in your neck. The culprit may be looking right at you. Your phone. Think about how you use it. Does that pain feel familiar to you?
Hi, I'm Dr. Mark Strathman with Kearney Family Chiropractic Center, and I've been practicing chiropractic health in Kearney for over 22 years. When you come to see me, I identify what's wrong and determine if I can help you. If I can, I create your personalized plan for relief.
When you have pain, you can make an appointment by calling 816-628-6738, or you can visit the office at 301 South Platte Clay Way, Suite B in Kearney. Kearney Family Chiropractic Center. Heal yourself.
And welcome back to Kearney Live. Diane Pickert is with us today. She is the Community Prevention Specialist with Tri-County Mental Health. And let's go ahead and talk about, and you're the movement you're involved in, for lack of a better term, is Kearney-Holt CAN.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that real quickly.
Kearney-Holt CAN is
Yes.
Community Action Now. That is a group of people that anybody can be involved in the Kearney community, Kearney and Holt community. And we try to pull parents in, youth in, school people, business, faith-based, youth-serving organizations, law enforcement, civic, government, media, all of those sectors we invite to the table to have a voice in what we're doing.
Right. So this is a specific initiative for Kearney-Holt then.
Yes.
But you said Ray County was also involved in this or not?
Well, Tri-County serves Ray, Platte, and Clay
I
counties.
see. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is where this gets confusing to a simple-minded guy like myself, is, okay, we've got parentupkc.com. And tell us about that.
Parent Up is a website that we have. We run campaigns through Parent Up. So right now we're starting a resilience campaign, educating parents on how to raise resilient kids. So, they don't deal with some of these things and they can get past some of the anxiety and depression that they are having right now. And COVID has caused a lot of that in particular.
That's for adults too.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So there's great tips on there of what to look for. We have all the substances individually on there. We just finished a campaign on underage drinking. We have had a campaign before that on meaningful meals, how important it is for families to have meals together, and how that helps with mental wellness and substance use, because 50%, they say that families that eat together on a regular basis, 50% of their kids are less likely to get involved in
that
behavior.
Is so critical.
Risky behaviors.
And gosh, how many people actually do that anymore?
Yeah, it's a lot of drive-through stuff, or you're on your own. There's leftovers in the fridge.
Right.
Yeah.
You just don't think of that family dinner time. Yeah.
And they've got it down to a science. Like we had Dr. Ann Fischel on a Facebook Live, which we also have that on that page. You can go to that Facebook Live and listen to her. It was fascinating listening to her. She spent 30 years of her life studying family meals. And, kids have better relationships with their peers. They make better grades. They have more hope for the future. It's just amazing she said 4 meals a week from a minimum of 18 minutes. That's how they've got it down to that science. So, and if you have more, that's great. And it doesn't have to be like, okay, I'm going to make this fantastic meal. It could be pizza or, roasting marshmallows over a fire. It's really that connection that's important.
Yes. All right. So you'd mentioned before we went to break that that smoking is down, which is a great thing. I think, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't there a point at which, and I think it was somewhere in the late 80s, maybe in the early 90s, where kids were all of a sudden, you were beginning to see them smoking in movies again. And what a bad idea that was. I mean, particularly after that was when they were putting the warnings on the cigarette packs and all of that. And it just seemed, of course, I think by that time people had stopped smoking in restaurants, and maybe not, I can't remember, or at least there was a dividing line. Don't smoke over here, but you can smoke over here, which was nonsense. But anyway, that's a good thing. But why on earth? I mean, let's face it, the media plays a role in all of this.
Absolutely.
And you indicated to me earlier that, yes, my head might be buried in the sand a little bit, and I might be a little naive. I might perhaps be a little naive. But there are things going on, and certainly in social media and with the advent of TikTok and everything that's available to kids that can put them under enormous amounts of pressure that many of us didn't experience because none of those things existed. Talk to me about how social media plays a role in all of this.
Yes. Well, that glamorization of smoking, got a lot of people to smoke back in the 50s and the 60s. Movie stars were doing it, so you want to be like the movie stars, you want to do it. So if you look at the vaping ads now, they're glamorizing that puff of smoke that comes out when you vape. And everybody thinks it's flavored water, when in fact it's chemicals. It's things like diacetyl and lead and nickel and things like that, and things that we don't want in our bodies. And but they don't advertise it like that. It's the way they're advertising it. And I don't know if you guys saw recently that the FDA put a ban on Juul. They can no longer sell.
I did. Yes.
So I don't know.
Which is that's the mechanical. I'll get this out. Mechanical device that holds the flavor portion of the vaping kit, as I understand it. Yeah.
Yes, and did you know one of those cartridges is equivalent to a whole pack of cigarettes?
I do now.
20 cigarettes.
That is stunning.
Yes. So and kids can smoke up to 3 of those a day, easy.
Holy moly!
Good grief! Wow.
So yeah, all of there's more than Juul out there, and I'm not. Juul did some things that kind of went against what the FDA was allowing. So I think they've gotten themselves in some big trouble. But it's the way they market. They market to the younger crowd, and the younger crowd can't even have it. They
right.
It's illegal.
Yes, I think it was positioned as an alternative to, or a means by which you can quit smoking cigarettes. Mm-hmm. I can't really take a position on it because I just don't know. But,
yes, and they're telling, they're not telling the whole truth.
Yeah.
Like, vaping does cause anxiety and depression. There were some commercials, and one played during the Super Bowl. I don't know if it wasn't the actual Super Bowl. It was in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. They called it a depression stick. They were trying to sell it to, gas stations and places that sell them. And they were saying, yeah, it's great. It causes anxiety and depression, just like all these that you have in here. It's loaded with nicotine. And it was kind of a funny spoof.
Right.
But it was real. And they, Truth Initiative is an organization that is behind those commercials.
Yes.
And we actually have a cessation program that is run through Truth Initiative, trying to get kids to stop smoking, vaping is in particular, because
so
that's
it's habit forming.
Yes,
it is habit forming.
Extremely, it's very addictive.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Well, here's the thing: it's just if it's positioned as an alternative, well, then what's the point? And clearly, kids, you have to be 21 now to buy cigarettes.
Well, it's a federal law. It's not completely across the state of Missouri yet, but we always tell retailers that you should err by the federal law versus the state law, because if the feds come in and you sell to a 19-year-old, you can get in trouble. You can get fined, because the federal law is 21. So
I see.
Yeah.
And you indicated as well when we spoke earlier that there is, as kids are involved in some of these activities, you are to learn that drinking is one of the sort of it's a higher usage rate than many of these other drugs, and
alcohol is usually the number one. Mm-hmm. Yes, just probably because it's more accessible than any of the others.
And accessible, you would say, from it's at their home. They can get their hands on their parents.
Somebody's house has it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. And sometimes, we hear a lot of older siblings or friends will buy for younger kids. Mm-hmm.
Now that is not, I'm not naive about that.
Yeah.
I was young once too, and I remember that. But what are you seeing when we talk about alcohol use? I mean, we've talked about fentanyl and many of the other things that are a whole other show, which we've dedicated an entire show to. But what are you seeing as a result of kids getting involved in alcohol now? Let's just, what as you're, obviously we're protecting it. Nobody's mentioning names here. This is all about what you're learning from your studies.
Yes. Well, I mean, usually, alcohol is the easiest to get. So we really like to dedicate a couple months, especially between prom and graduation, to underage drinking and the harms of that. And, like what effect alcohol has on the brain. So we do a lot of brain science with the youth. So we teach them that their brain develops from the back to the front. So their prefrontal lobe is the last to develop, and that's their decision maker. So when you use a substance, it works from the front to the back. So what's the first thing that's going to be affected? Your decision maker. So you're not going to make good decisions when you start drinking alcohol, and then it goes back into your amygdala area, and that is where like your emotions are. And so, you becoming very emotional, and then it goes into your brainstem, which is where your coordination is, and then you don't have the coordination, and it can affect your breathing. And then, of course, once you get into the breathing part, then you're really at risk for overdose or alcohol poisoning if it's alcohol. So, we try to teach the kids that how their brain works, and that has helped tremendously in their decision making.
Right.
Yes.
And when you say you're teaching the kids these really valuable lessons, and I think that frontal brain portion is huge.
Yes.
How are you actually teaching these kids? How do you get that information across to them?
Many ways. We have some videos that we've created in our office that we send to the schools, and they show them in health classes and physical education classes, or like there's some schools that have health and wellness pathways that they have. So some of those classes will show these videos. This year, we recently brought in a mega lung and mega brain. It didn't make it to Kearney, unfortunately, but so 2 years ago we had the mega lung, and we brought it up to Kearney schools. And so it's a life-size blow-up lung and brain that you can actually walk in and see how it works. And so we sent out videos or presentations for the school to do, or some of our youth prevention specialists went in and did some presentations at the schools. And then they got to go to the blow-up brain or lung and see it. This is what your brain looks like in this giant size, and so you can actually see how it functions and where all these things happen at. It was pretty successful in educating the youth. So we do things like that, and then we like to do peer-to-peer education, because that seems to work very well. So you teach a group of kids. We actually have one of our coalitions is a youth coalition called Youth with Vision, and so any youth out there that are interested can get involved in this coalition. We try to get 1 or 2 kids from every school district to be on this coalition, and they make a lot of decisions. Actually, everything that we do in our office, we run it by them first, and they okay it. Like, yes, youth will like this, or no, they won't.
The kids themselves give you the thumbs up.
Yes.
Yeah, that it's not corny. No, this is cool, and it'll resonate.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Wow,
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
This is that's
Yeah.
good. You also mentioned that I want to get to this quickly, but you mentioned that you do some impact studies on how well these programs are working.
Oh, yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So we also have a survey, a community survey that we send out to adults, and we just finished that. We send it out to our coalitions and say, send it out to everybody you know in Clay, Platte, and Ray County. So it asks questions like all the major media things that we do. Have you seen this message on billboards or through a mailer, or things on YouTube, or the radio ads, like the radio ad we were running on this station?
Yay!
Have you heard this?
Thank you for that. Yes.
Yes. So we ask if they've seen any of that. So that kind of tells us if our messages are getting out there and how many people are actually listening to it. And then we ask them similar questions that the youth get asked, like, do you serve alcohol to youth in your home? Do you, just different questions about the different substances and the different use uses, and so they answer them, and it kind of gives us an idea of what's happening in the adult world, and are they hosting parties, or do they think it's dangerous? Do you think it's wrong to smoke as a youth? Do you think it's wrong to use alcohol as a youth? So those kinds of things really help us to determine where we need to strategize some of our messages better.
Right. It seems to me, I remember reading news stories of parents who had hosted drinking parties for underage kids who were arrested. And I think that's become more prevalent over it's probably been the last 20 years or so, that parents can't serve alcohol to minors. Let's just, don't be stupid. I mean, that to me seems like it's had a pretty solid impact, and I can't imagine a responsible parent doing something like that anyway. But let's come back, and I want to talk a little bit more about the mental health of youth these days. Stay with us, folks. We are visiting today with Diane Pickert with Kearney-Holt CAN, ParentUpKC.com, and Tri-County Mental Health. She's involved in all of those things, everything, all that work you do, all by yourself.
Not by myself.
Well, stay with us. We'll be right back. You're listening to Kearney Live.
Making our programming possible on KPGZ are these fine underwriters.
You value choices when it comes to the products and services you bring into your home. That's why Platte Clay Electric Cooperative gives you control over the energy you use. PCEC offers members ways to save with energy efficiency rebates and demand billing. You even have the power to choose the resources used to produce your power. To learn more, visit www.pcec.coop/power. Platte Clay Electric Cooperative. Your power, your way.
Migraine headaches, the throbbing in your temples, the pounding in your forehead, extreme sensitivity to light and sound. Your neck feels so tight it could snap off. Oh, the debilitating pain.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mark Strathman with Kearney Family Chiropractic Center, and I've been practicing chiropractic health in Kearney for over 22 years. When you come to see me, I identify what's wrong and determine if I can help you. If I can, I create your personalized plan for relief.
When you have pain, you can make an appointment by calling 816-628-6738, or you can visit the office at 301 South Platte Clay Way, Suite B in Kearney. Kearney Family Chiropractic Center. Heal yourself.
Online banking at Kearney Trust Company gives you 24/7 access to your checking, savings, money markets, CDs, and loan accounts. You can access your accounts anytime from your home, office, and mobile devices. Online banking with Kearney Trust combines convenience and flexibility to bank on your own terms. Kearney Trust Company is a partner for success with 2 locations in Kearney at 310 West 92 Highway and 701 Watson Drive in Price Chopper. The phone is 816-628-6666. Kearney Trust Company. Banking you can trust. Member FDIC.
Welcome back to Kearney Live. That's Brian Watts over here, the new president of the Kearney, Missouri Chamber of Commerce. Yes, that guy right there.
Yes, but old at working this board, and I should know to turn on the microphones by now.
Well, there's probably not a lot of things you really need to hear me say or that you really care to hear me say. We're visiting today with Diane Pickert. She is with so many different organizations, and I guess you have initiatives that are taking into account all of the things that are going on with kids in alcohol, drug abuse, and mental health through Tri-County Mental Health. Take a look at parentupkc.com. Some neat tips on there. It's a great website for parents to, there are lots of tools on there that I went through this earlier, even before you got here. Fascinating stuff. Parents staying in contact with their kids and different ways to do it. And then Kearney-Holt, I've just been tongue-tied today. Let's just be honest about it. It's not one. I'm about a B- today. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm getting close to a C if I'm not careful. Kearney-Holt CAN, and that is the initiative that you're really heavily involved in.
Yes.
And okay, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I want to get to this because this is so important to me. We talked about youth mental wellness and signs of suicide and things of that nature that. Listen, I think about back when I was a kid, and I don't anybody. Listen, I know folks right now who look back in their high school years and they wouldn't take a gazillion dollars to go back to that time because it was just awful. It was a terrible feeling, and they were sort of ostracized or felt left out or weren't one of the cool kids or whatever. I don't remember ever feeling like that. I never felt like, gosh, my life is so terrible or I'm in such a dark place and feel so hopeless that I would have or even known anybody that would have considered taking their own life. I realize that's an unrealistic view of what some people are going through. Explain.
Yes. Well, I mean, there are a lot of youth. There's people of all ages are struggling with suicidal ideations right now. And actually, probably your age group is the number one age group that the most suicides happen, believe it or not, male. So youth, it happens in youth, and it's a lot, and not way more than we want. But everybody seems to struggle with these things, and so how do you stop that? How do you prevent that from happening? And with the youth in particular, well, substance use is definitely can escalate that. So we want to keep them away from that because. One thing we explain to the youth on that is you get a shot of dopamine every time you do something that, it's your happy hormone. So
when they do drugs or alcohol, yes.
It gets bigger. It's bigger.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and they become dependent on that little shot of dopamine.
Right.
Yes.
Because what gets repeated gets rewarded. And so that's why we want them to stay away from substance use, and that will help with that mental wellness in particular. And then youth need adult intervention. They need adults in their life. They need mentors. And so, we talk a lot about also in our office the 40 developmental assets and having that connection with an adult. I mean, one adult, they say only takes one adult really to make a connect with a kid that can change the directory of their life. And so we encourage healthy adult youth relationships and adults asking good questions to youth about like what are your plans for the future and what are you good at, or tapping into something that they've seen that they've done, and not just saying good job, but wow, I really like how the way if they're playing ball, you dribbled that ball, you have a talent about you, or the way you use your words, you would be a good writer.
Yes.
Something like that.
I think kids are pretty good at spotting crap. Let's just be honest about it.
Oh, yes.
I mean, they know if somebody's being disingenuous.
Yes.
And so a thoughtful mentor who really cares comes through loud and clear to a teenager.
Yes, absolutely. And they need that. So don't ever hesitate to encourage a youth, and not just, pat them on the back and say good job, but really encourage them to do more. It's that growth mindset. We need to encourage that growth mindset. We actually show a movie called Resilience sometimes, and we have an action guide that you can go through with a small group, and talk about how to build resilient kids and that connectedness is a big one, and encouraging the growth mindset is a big one as well.
Yeah. How do you? How are teachers and the obvious mentors that kids are around on a regular basis? How do they play into your initiatives, and how are you helping to sort of train them to be that person, to be that ideal contact? I mean, I can think about a couple of instructors I had, a couple of coaches that, back however long ago, that really did change, as you indicated, the trajectory of my life. Yeah. And were that important and just essential. How are you, and it just seemed to be a natural kind of a relationship. How do you train those instructors and mentors to keep it natural, to keep it real?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have a great relationship with most of the schools we work. I mean, really all the schools we work with, we have great relationships. We like somebody from the school to be on those coalitions. We work a lot with SERSs. And I just recently met with the principal and assistant principal at Kearney High School and talked about the things that we do, and they want us to bring in, all the programs that we have. I talked to you earlier about how full is your cup, and, teaching them coping skills.
Yeah, talk about that for a minute, if you could, yeah.
How Full is Your Cup is a campaign that was actually developed by youth, and so that's one thing. When a youth comes up with a really good idea, we tap into that, and that youth, I think she was from Lawson, if I'm not mistaken, created this program, and we just made it professional. We got it professionally put together. And so we bring in a banner of a coffee cup with different levels of stress on it, and the first day the kids write on colored note paper what are the stressors in their life, and they put them from the bottom up like they're filling the cup.
Sort of a sticky note thing.
A sticky note,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And then during the week, they learn coping skills, mindfulness, grounding techniques by, different classrooms like art or music or physical activity, reading, things like that, just quiet time, and how to lower that stress. And so on Friday, they write on white sticky notes and from the top down fill up what coping skills did they learn, what helped them cope with their problems. And it's just a beautiful program. Mm-hmm. The kids are all happy by the end of the week, and then we give them either coffee cups with the same meter on it or little stadium cups, and then we fill them with something fun like candy or lemonade or something, hot chocolate, depending on the time of the year.
Yeah. Roots of Resilience, you have that written down here. What? Tell me what that means.
Well, that we have campaigns, like right now we're in a Roots of Resilience campaign. You might see a billboard up, or you might see a mailer go out, depending on the community you're in. Clay County, I know we're going to be sending some stuff out, and I think we're going to do a big radio push in Clay County on resilience. So just talking to parents how to raise resilient kids, what simple things that you can do to help your kids become resilient. And then we have that action guide where the movie Resilience is a 1-hour movie that we can show. We've shown it in schools, we've shown it at community, like churches, places like that. And it talks about ACEs, which are adverse childhood experiences. And what we have learned about adverse childhood experiences is that it affects not just your mind, but your body. And so people who have higher than 3 adverse childhood experiences in their lifetime are more susceptible to health issues as they get older. Things like diabetes, obesity, heart disease, lung disease, cancer. They related all of that together in a study. And so we get parents to learn this stuff, and then facing those adverse childhood experiences is the beginning of healing. And we try to get people to do that. So the Roots of Resilience action guide that we have goes through a 5-step program on what it is, how do we, become those role models that our kids need to have, because we have to take care of ourselves as well.
You're doing a number of things in community outreach. You indicated earlier, I think, before we jumped on the air here. So you're working with some churches, the school district. Kind of tell us who all the groups you're kind of working with.
Yes, the 12 sectors involve schools, families, churches, businesses, civic centers.
Talked about police,
law enforcement, media, the government, any youth serving organization. So we have places like trying to think off the top of my head now.
Well,
like the Rotary clubs are involved.
Yes.
Places like that.
Well, I think that's important because when you talk about kids having an adult mentor or just a friend, somebody, it may be a family member that they know they can trust, that they know they can go to. Sometimes kids want to talk to somebody besides their parents about a thing that's, that they feel more comfortable talking to somebody else. Understandable, a grandparent, whatever. But I think it is, what you're doing is so important that you're reminding adults that, yes, there are kids out here that are still in need of a connection to an adult, even though we're all screwballs and we're corny and we don't know anything and we're definitely not hip or in any way cool by their standard. But yet they want that connection. They need that connection from people who care, and they need to know that adults care. If folks want to get involved with you and in the Kearney-Holt CAN initiative, how do they get involved in this?
Well, we meet once a month. We take a break from June and July because we kind of wrap up things for the year and are prepping. Now, granted, we are probably going to be at one of the farmers markets coming up and one of the summer celebrations that they have, and we'll be passing out information there on what we do. And then you can always email me at dianep@tricounty.org, tricountymhs.org. So
try that again.
It's dianep@tri-county-mhs.org.
Very good. And people can slow that down when you can watch this on later, or now. When you watch it later, you can slow down the feed and get all of that. And also, you've got a phone number, I'm sure, somewhere in here.
Yes.
So go ahead. Give that out.
816-468-0400, extension 214.
There you go, and it's Diane Pickert. And thank you so much, Diane. We rushed through so much material today that we were only able to scratch the surface.
It's a lot.
It is, and I know, but it's just so important. It is of such critical importance that you want to save kids as early as possible from getting involved in things that are going to impact their lives negatively, that could harm them, that they could lose their lives if they make some of these bad decisions all these things we've talked about. It's painfully obvious. And I think you're just doing a terrific job in the fact that there are people who are standing up and saying, let's be the solution here.
Thank you. Yes, it's not, it's a team. It takes a village.
Yes, indeed it does. It sure does. And I know you're involved heavily with the Kearney, Missouri School District, and we so appreciate that. And anybody that's working with kids, and again, I think that we just see so many of the good kids, and then the news, we're covering all the great stories and the cool things that are happening over at the school. Yeah. And you just forget that there are kids that have emotional needs that might not be being met, that might be from broken families or having some problems, inside their family, and they just need to know that there's a place that they can reach out.
Absolutely.
And you're providing, I think, a lot of those avenues now.
Yes, we hope so.
Yeah, well, way more than I ever remembered as, in my own youth. And I think we had 700 people in our graduating class, and that's a lot of kids, that could get into trouble and things that could go wrong, and, you just hate seeing it when a young life is impacted by such horrible things. And you guys are doing a terrific job. Diane Pickert, thank you so much for being with us. Come back anytime.
Thank you.
And we can talk about any of this in more depth if you'd like to. We can talk about some of the results of some of the things so that we can see, yes, this stuff works. Thank you so much for being with us today. Congratulations to Brian Watts, the new president of the Kearney, Missouri Chamber of Commerce. That is wonderful. Jim Dickerson will be back with us. Not next week.
Nope.
Because we're going to be blowing up stuff with fireworks. I'm not, but I'll watch the fireworks. Thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate you. See you next time.